The latest. Thank you for your love and support, and I welcome you all to my channel. US announces its support for African nations to get 2 permanent seats in the UN Security Council. This is supposed to be a good thing, but we know that currently as it stands, Africa is divided. We are not united. African nations are being controlled by the West, except Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso. AU is being run and controlled by the West. Sit without veto power is equal to nothing. These people will go there and US will still control them. Let them do what they want. Currently, we do not have independent Africa. Africa is being controlled by the West. Africa does what the West wants. The leaders and everybody is under the influence of the West. They will still select the people or the nations that should represent Africa. So at the end of the day, all that we've worked for is still not going to yield any result. What we need now in Africa is unity. An independent Africa. An Africa that can stand on its own, take decisions without the influence of the West and America. They are supporting us to have a seat. These people are the same people that are going to control the people that will represent Africa. So at the end of the day, Africa do not have a say. And this is not what we want. We want an Africa whereby Africa will be represented wherever it goes. We are tired of the West influencing and controlling us. And if we are still going to be there, and these same people who are oppressing us will keep oppressing us, then what's the essence of the seat? Because this seat has no benefit and will never benefit the African as long as these people are the veto powers. United we stand. Let's unite and let's gain our sovereignty, so that when we even have people that are going to represent us anywhere, we know that they are going to carry the African agenda across, so that we'll be free from imperialism, neocolonialism, and any form of oppression.
This was the US envoy last week after she announced Washington's support for 2 permanent seats for Africa on a reformed UN Security Council, but critically without veto power.
We have the veto power as well, and none of the permanent members want to give up their veto power, including us. I'm being honest about that. We don't want to give up our veto power, and we do think if we expand that veto power across the board, it will make the council more dysfunctional.
Fast forward a few days to a briefing by the ambassador previewing the US priorities for the upcoming General Assembly's high-level week, and this question.
Why retain something you yourself have described as creating dysfunction? What purpose does the veto hold beyond giving countries a mechanism that often blocks broad consensus in the Council, most notably on the Middle East file, the DPRK, and Ukraine, some of the most intractable issues that have been before this Council? What purpose does this veto serve?
The veto power was created when the council was created. And yes, we've had some serious issues with the use of the veto, because we use the veto on issues, all of us, that are of import to us. And so while I understand why other countries think the veto is dysfunctional, so I acknowledge their understanding that the veto is dysfunctional, and I acknowledge that we're not prepared to give up the veto, but countries can't make that happen until they're sitting in a permanent seat. So my argument to countries is, don't demand what you think is dysfunctional, demand to work within the system to figure out how to change that. And I don't know how to make that change happen, but I do think increasing the number of permanent seats on the council will make the council more inclusive. It will bring added voices to how the council functions, and it will bring additional regional interest to the table. So yes, we have made a decision, like others, that we're not ready to give up on our veto power, but we're willing to listen to what others have to say on that, and we'll see where it carries us.
What's your view? The ambassador was then first pressed on Washington's view of Russia's use of the veto on the Ukraine file.
It's been a problem. You have a country, a permanent member of the Security Council, who has broken every single tenet of the charter by invading a neighbor, actually compromising the sovereignty of that country and the borders of that country. And that country sits on the Security Council with a veto. So it is problematic.
Against?
And then on the US use of the veto on the Palestinian file, most notably the ongoing war in Gaza. And the response was illuminating and unapologetic.
We use our veto to promote the interests of the U.S. government. And that's how we've used that veto consistently over many, many years in the council. And yes, people think it leads to dysfunction, but for us, it is power that we have, and we do use that power. I'm not going to make any excuses for it. It is something that is within the toolbox of things that we can bring to the table in the Security Council. And let me be clear on the issues related to the Middle East. We want to see peace, and that's what President Biden has worked for.